Wow. I'm using Philips Hue lights, and for some reason I'm very orange. Anyways, I wanted to check out some more, some more emulation on the Mac. Let's see if I can make my Bluetooth receiver work. Yep, it does. So let's boot up Parallels desktop. Now hopefully this will all work. And like so, and then I typing in my pins so no one can see. So yeah, this is Windows on ARM, and I'm not running a preview version anymore. I'm just running a registered version, and it's running in a virtual machine, but it's actually pretty good. I'll show you. Let me see. I think Tamba is a great little so I can run emulators. And the gamepad is actually this PlayStation 4 gamepad is actually recognized as an Xbox 360 by Parallels.
3. Tricky Diamond.
So it's possible to have all sorts of
USA.
It's possible to have all sorts of Windows emulators running.
3, 2, 1,
go! And of course Steam. And I've been playing Journey for quite a bit. Actually, I finished it. I played through it on the Steam Deck, and I figured, well, let's check out how it runs on Windows, on fake Windows, on the Mac, Mini, M1 Mini, and it actually runs pretty decent. So this is a very nice experiential game. And oh, I already did this level, but I'll show you a small snippet. It's actually running pretty well. Running the OBS in the background doesn't seem to hinder it that much. Yeah. Oh, there's this glowing item that will actually elongate your scarf. And lighting these will actually show you a tableau with a bit of the story. Let's elongate my scarf. the length of your scarf actually determines how long you can, how high you can fly, how long you can actually fly. And these banners, these floating banners, will actually supply you with energy. That's very interesting. So, Windows has been modified. Apple Q or Start Menu Q will actually quit your application. But yeah, Sega Rally. Graphics, let's do 720, 60, launch. Might be a bit faster than the 1920 by 1080p. That scales rather nicely. What I do like about the Mac Mini is that it is absolutely silent. And it has very low power requirements, which in this day and age is actually a pretty good thing. You won't be running the latest titles, things like Stray or other very intense graphical applications won't run, but the older Windows games will actually run pretty decently. It has force feedback, just like an original Xbox 360 controller would have. Now it is only possible to run Windows 11 on ARM, and basically this means that older apps might actually have some issues. I did install 32-bit Intel applications and the Microsoft Intel emulator actually will work just fine with it. At first I thought only 64-bit applications were supported, but no. On the Apple side of things, I believe only 64-bit apps are actually supported. The Intel apps. I'm not sure, but yeah, this runs pretty decently. Very interesting. Now, if I close out of Windows, shut down, and I also close out of Parallels, then I should retain, yeah, so that should actually work. EtherSX2. What is a nice Adron Coast to Coast? Actually, this on the PlayStation is actually a very tough game to run. Even on fast systems, it won't be a solid 60 frames per second. Perhaps when I'm capturing with OBS, it won't be a solid 60 frames per second. But it is actually a solid 60 frames per second. Yeah, there's some glitches. This happens on older versions of PCSX2.
Off-run mode mode. Shiny world.
But it's actually amazing to see how this actually runs a solid 60 frames per second.
Get ready.
There's two frame rates. The frame rate that the emulator is actually outputting and the frame rate of the game in the lower left right side. Now on most systems PCSX2 would actually dip. It will slow down, have some micro stutters, and this is really very solid. It's like the real deal, but then with amazing graphical fidelity. I mean, I have my PS2, I've hooked it up over an OCS open source scaler, but to HDMI, it's nowhere near as good looking, sharp looking as this. Yeah, it's just a solid 60 frames per second. Possibly they ported this with the M1 in mind and could just totally optimize it or something like that. Otherwise I just would not think how this would run. Well, actually a lot of software actually is using the Rosetta 2 and this is running natively. So very solid performance. What else do we have? We have PlayStation 3. Yeah, that's actually quite weird. PlayStation 3. Let's outrun online on the PlayStation 3. Whoops. Yeah. This is Rosetta 2. And I've showed it before, but I'm just a fanless system capable of PlayStation 3 emulation. That is
Dino
just
246 automatic
insane.
transmission. Outrun mode. Shiny world.
And this just runs boom at 60 frames per second.
Get ready.
Now the M1 has 8 cores, 4. Yeah, it's slightly. I noticed that there's a slight micro stutter. You might not, and probably that's because of OBS running in the background. But yeah, the thing with this is that I believe all the M1 cores can be utilized by Rosetta, but they're not all the same speed. And this could possibly have some ramifications when you try to run a multi-threaded emulator like this. It's using Rosetta to have all the PPC threads and running. Of course, the PlayStation 3 is a very weird beast with a lot of compute units doing their work in parallel. So what could happen is that one of the threads actually is too slow for the others. So you have deadlocks or something like that. You see that sometimes happen in games that use a lot of these different cores. The Outrun is a very simple game. It probably just uses one of the cores. So games that just use a single thread or just 2 or 3 threads are probably fine. But yeah, this is running great. Let's open it up again. And what else? Oh yeah, PlayStation 1 emulation on PlayStation 3 on Mac. It's a side product of of getting the PlayStation 3 emulation more complete. There is an emulator in the BIOS for the PlayStation, but there's also an emulator in the BIOS for the PlayStation Portable and the PlayStation 2. The PlayStation Portable emulator gets used for some of the mini games actually that are playable on the PlayStation 3, I believe. And the PlayStation 2 emulator, well, yeah, only supported on certain models, but that would just be insane. Just have a single PlayStation emulator that basically does everything up to 3. That would just be insanity in a bottle. Of course, what's the point of running emulators inside of emulators? Well, I'm very curious about the lag that occurs or doesn't occur, and just the compatibility of it all. Because if you can run nested emulators and the main machine is actually fast enough to have the main loop running, then whatever happens in the emulator, you know, it's until the overhead is gone, of course. But yeah, it just proves a point that emulation is actually a good way to preserve software functionality, even if the original this is actually running slow. This is running slow. Even if the original hardware isn't available anymore, but if you have a software environment, it could be fast enough. I'm not sure if I actually configured this yet. I would love to have an Amiga 4000 setup running in this at some point. Oh yeah, Macintosh JavaScript. So we have macOS 8.1. Let me see, system profiler. I believe this is a yeah, like a Quadra 900. It does run games. UTM. Oh, this is interesting, yeah. This is actually running a PowerPC. UTM is a QEMU implementation. And I have a hard time getting the sound to work, so for some reason there's no sound yet, or very buggy. I believe I have to click, yeah, to have the mouse captured. Let's see, do I have a mouse? Yeah, it only wants to be on the side of the screen. So yeah, there's issues with this. There it is. About this computer, macOS 9.2.1, system profiler. And this does a PowerPC emulator at 900 megahertz. Pretty steep. Like so. Shut down. Yep. I also have a PC, an Intel PC emulated, and that is running that open source ReactOS. It's a Windows XP, Windows NT implementation. It's I've tried to install it on old hardware, but it just doesn't like the hardware I tried to install it on. It's getting more and more compatible every time. And this is a network driver, I believe, that it wants to install. Let me see. Are there any? No, I don't have any. I believe, yeah, that actually runs. They have ReactX instead of DirectX, and I believe it's possible to. Yeah, it just doesn't support 3D hardware acceleration, which for me makes it pretty much unusable because, you know, I use a lot of stuff that has accelerated graphics, but still the M1 is actually capable of running a fair bit of emulated systems. Xemu, load, and then Halo, reset. This should run 30 or 60 frames per second, so I mean it's not the fastest. Most of the time this bit will actually revert to 14, 15 frames per second on most systems that are not very compatible, but it seems to be, it remains 30, so here it slows down a bit. So I wouldn't call it playable, but to have Xbox running on an M1 Mac is actually pretty cool. Yeah, what else? What else? What else? Yeah, RetroArch, of course. Let me see. Look, RetroArch is being an ass. Do I have some software that is not? No? Not configured. It doesn't want to play nice, does it? No. That has something to do with the other emulators or with Parallels having been active before. If you boot it up without running these prior, then there's no issues. So Caliber, let's see, because it should actually work, right? Start, yeah, no. So it just craps up. Bluetooth. It's connected. Oh, weird. Anyways, pretty solid emulation stuff.